to talk about what would be our ideal 5 game parlay.
Five.
Now, we're gonna pick 5 games,
Uh-huh.
against the spread, whatever,
Yeah.
and basically tell you what we think would be the right way to go. Again, you use your best judgment as to
Let's
what
do
you
it.
think is the right and wrong thing to do. But here we go. Okay.
All right. Let's get into
So
it.
the Dallas Atlanta game, Atlanta's favored by -3. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not touching that game. Right? So that's
I
not
don't
one of
like.
my
I don't.
five.
I don't like to bet on this game either.
No.
On paper, I would say the way that Atlanta's playing, the way that Dallas is playing, I can see Atlanta winning this game and covering. But if I'm betting on the game, I don't want to put a bet on a like what if. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a
No.
what if game, and if
100%.
Dallas plays up to their potential, they could potentially win the game. So I
Yep.
don't want to bet on a what if. So I'm not going to do
Yep.
that. I do think that Atlanta will win this game. It's so tough, actually. If I think about it, I think you know what I'm gonna flip on that because Atlanta kind of is like weird like this. This is the kind of game that Atlanta loses, and Dallas comes in and wins. Like this is the kind of a team that Atlanta's been. So you know what? I'm gonna put my
Dallas
pick. I'm
needs
gonna
a
say
spark, man.
Dallas wins this game. I'm not putting it my 5 team parlay, but I think Dallas is gonna win this game.
This
Let's
is
go to the
definitely
next
not
one.
going in my 5 team odds parlay. You know what is going in my 5 team parlay?
Yeah.
Buffalo killing the Miami Dolphins at home.
I knew
Buffalo
you'd
is
say that.
favored by -6.
Yeah.
Listen, folks, I've never been quite sure of anything in my entire life as I am of how the Dolphins play against the Buffalo Bills, specifically in Buffalo. Okay,
Yeah,
like
it's a tough one for them.
minus 6 is being generous.
What's the weather
Buffalo.
gonna be like in
It doesn't
Buffalo?
matter. It could be 95 degrees and sweltering hot, and Miami's still going to lose this game, okay? So I'm thinking Miami loses by at least 2 touchdowns. Okay, I don't think it's going to be a close game at all.
Damn.
Um, yeah, no, I have no faith that they're going to even put up a fight against the Bills. The
And
Bills
then
own the Dolphins, okay? They own them. And so whatever Dolphin fan is disillusioned out there that Miami has a sliver of a chance. I've seen some posts out there on X that are like, "Oh, if Miami gets this and they will go to 3-5, the rest." I'm like, okay, first off, like just stop that conversation. Like you've already discredited yourself because you're saying if they get to 3-5, they're not gonna get to 3-5. They're not winning this game. It's not happening. Book it. Buffalo easily gets the -6. They are one of my five games on my 5 game parlay here.
I don't want to say that Miami's gonna lose this game, but
They
they're
are.
gonna lose this game.
They're
And
gonna lose this
Buffalo,
game.
Buffalo owns Miami. Like
Yeah.
we've seen it in the past. Like the best predictor of the future is the past. I don't know. Is that like
Yeah.
some saying? Is that Confucius or somebody?
I
I don't
well,
know.
it's
Doesn't
you now.
matter. It's the football Greek saying. Um, you know, uh, Miami is going to lose, and potentially they're going to trade Tyreek Hill after this game.
Yeah,
I think trade deadline is November 4th. I want to say
yeah,
November
maybe.
3rd is the game.
We'll see.
Tyreek Hill coming to the Bay.
We'll see.
Let's
We'll
go.
see.
That was my last week. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
keeping that hope alive.
it was my prediction last week as well, but there's another team that desperately needs a receiver that I can't remember at the moment. Oh,
No.
Tampa freaking Bay. He
Yeah.
can stay in Florida and go to Tampa
Yeah.
Bay. You know,
That's a chance. That's a
doesn't have to
chance.
give
I
up
mean,
any of taxes or anything like that. That's attractive
no,
enough for him.
yeah, that's
You know,
attractive. Yeah.
he could go there, right? And that's
Yeah.
a very winnable division, right? So
Yeah. You never know. You
you
never
never
know. We'll
know.
see.
Baker throwing passes to Tyreek Hill. I mean,
Yeah.
that
And Mike
sounds,
Evans. Yeah, that's pretty
yeah, that
good. It's pretty
sounds that
good.
sounds pretty good.
Pretty good.
Anyways, Vegas Bengals favored by -7. I am not touching this game. This is not part of my 5 games. I am not sure what happens here. I don't
You
know
are
what
not a
version of the
believer in Joe
Raiders.
Burrow, huh?
I am. I just no, not necessarily that I'm not a believer of Joe Burrow. I think he's very good.
Yeah.
I think that this version of the Cincinnati Bengals is done. And what I mean by that is like this is still the remnants of the team that made it to the Super Bowl, right? Like this is
Yeah.
still the core of that team.
Yeah.
And year over year they've gotten a little bit worse and a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And I think this is the year where eventually T. Higgins gets traded or goes to another team,
Yeah.
where eventually um,
It's
other
gonna
other
be.
key players get figured out, like get find new places to go.
Yeah.
I don't think the Bengals are the team that they were a few years ago, where they made it to the Super Bowl or anything like that. And the Raiders are very much in rebuilding mode. I would not be shocked if Max Crosby gets traded before the trade deadline.
Well, he's
Um,
got to. He's got till Monday.
yeah, so
So
we'll see.
I think this game actually is the Bengals victory.
-7.
I do.
Okay.
Bengals have they're not going to have T Higgins. He's doubtful. They're not going to have Zach Moss. He's doubtful. But Chase Brown seems to have taken over the running back duties. Before that, it doesn't even matter if he's in or out. But Chase Brown now is the guy. And like Zach Moss, my sleeper of the year, or whatever, that's out the window. Um, Chase Brown is the guy you want in that backfield, obviously, and he's going to have a huge game, being the only healthy running back with Zach Moss out. And Jamar Chase, man, and Joe Burrow, and then Mike Gesicki, the tight end. I think is gonna. He last week
Former
he had like
Dolphin, by the way.
yeah, last week he had 8 targets with Higgins out. So he's kind of like their second wide receiver with when Higgins has been out because he had like 7 targets the other game he was out. So
Yeah.
Mike Gesicki, if you need a tight end this week, that's the guy. I picked him up in my league. I'm playing him, so you might as well
Yeah.
follow my lead,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I don't like this game as far as like, hey, I'm gonna put this on the kind of the parlay, 5 game parlay. But I do think it's a good bet that the Bengals are going to win this game. I don't
Yeah, I
covering
think the
7 points
Bengals
is
win.
tough.
I don't know if they cover 7, but the Bengals
Yeah,
win. I agree with that.
yeah,
Um, the Chargers go to Cleveland, where the Chargers are favored by 1.5. This is in my 5 game parlay, and for me, it's Browns all day. I think the
yeah,
Browns win this straight up,
yeah,
and that is the game 2 of my 5 games because Jameis Winston obviously makes this team so much better. They shocked the NFL world by beating the Baltimore Ravens in Cleveland last week. Again, division
yeah,
game. They stay in Cleveland,
yeah.
and the Chargers, you know, they haven't been great. They haven't been bad,
They're
but they are very
mediocre.
much figuring themselves out with Jim
Yeah,
Harbaugh, right?
very much so.
So yeah, I the Cleveland for me in this one.
And Cleveland is getting points in this game, correct?
Yeah,
They're
Chargers are
home
favored by
dogs.
their home
Yeah,
dogs, correct?
that's kind of stupid. Vegas, I don't know. Vegas, what are you doing here? This is easy. This is Cleveland. Like they got Jameis Winston now. They got
Yeah,
Cedric Tillman. They got Jerry Judy. They got Elijah Moore, Joku. They got a lot of weapons on offense. And
yeah,
Nick Chubb's back, man. Like
yeah.
Cleveland's defense legit. They got Miles Garrett,
Yes.
and bro, Denzel Ward. They got a squad, man. They're gonna turn it around. They're gonna win this game.
Yeah.
It's easy, bro. Like
Although Mike
they're
Tannenbaum on
giving you
ESPN was
points.
saying that Cleveland should trade Miles Garrett in exchange. Oh, who was it? He was saying, oh, trade Miles Garrett to the Detroit Lions
Mm.
for 3 future first round picks
Yeah.
and Detroit's running back. I forgot his name.
Which one? Jameer Gibbs or David
Yeah,
Montgomery?
no, Gibbs.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I don't think they would take Montgomery over Gibbs. Gibbs is like he's like amazing, but like
Yeah,
they're still kind of giving Montgomery's like the kind of like the workhorse back, and they just give it for Gibbs for like the big play, and he gets in there, and they're like switching off,
yeah,
possessions, but
yeah. I'm not giving
Gibbs
up
is
three
the
first
guy.
round picks for anything. I did for
Yeah, no,
Tyreek
that's way
Hill,
too
and
much. It's
I
ridiculous.
mean, I love him, but whatever. Anyways,
Yeah,
moving on. So that's the game 2.
yeah.
New England at
Browns
Tennessee. Yeah, 100%. New
parlay.
England at Tennessee.
Okay.
Tennessee is favored by 3.5 because I believe Drake May is still out. Jacoby
Yes,
Brissett
Drake
is
May is out.
starting.
Yeah.
I'm not touching this game with a 10-foot pole. Not. There's
This
no.
is one of those
Definitely not.
ugly games that
Nope.
like no one should be betting on games like this that
Nope.
are so ugly. It's like you just have no idea what's going to happen. It's going to be a lot of mistakes, a lot of like some good defensive plays, some bad
I
defensive
want.
plays.
I want
It's
no
going to
part of this
be
game.
one of those just like who knows what's going to happen. It could be a field goal game, it could be like a
No,
high
thank you.
scoring game. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And these are the types of games that you don't want to bet on. So
No.
don't bet on this game.
Yeah.
If for me, like I would take the home team. I would take Tennessee. They just have a little bit more talent than New England. So, but
Yeah.
I would not bet on it.
Yeah. We're gonna move on to this division game. Washington Commanders play the New York Giants. Now, on paper, you'd be like, "Oh, Washington favored by -4. Easily, I'm going
Yeah,
to take Washington."
yeah,
Let me remind you, it's a division game and it's on the road. The
yeah,
Ravens lost to a division team on the road last week. The
yeah,
Commanders very possibly could lose to a division team on the road this week. This is another game I'm not touching because I
yeah,
love Jaden Daniels and I really like this Washington Commanders team, but I don't know if they're the type of team that wins the games that they absolutely should be winning, you know?
yeah.
Yet, at least.
It's a little early to be making those kind of bold predictions and statements about this team.
Hmm.
But honestly, I do think Jane Daniels is the real deal.
Hmm.
I think he's going to be the rookie of the year this year, and I do think this week he does beat the New York Giants. So I think that 4 points. It's tight, right? Is it going to be a
Hmm.
field goal game? Or are they going to win by a touchdown? Um, I think they're going to cover, honestly. So
Okay.
I would go with
This is your
Washington.
this is your third game.
Um, I'll come back to it. So we got two games in the parlay. I got Buffalo and Cleveland right now
Correct.
in
Just like
mind.
me. Yeah. Yeah.
I and I'm not quite sure if I want to put this in the parlay. But so let's move on to the next one here.
All
I'll
right,
let you
cool.
know. But
The New
I do
Orleans
think Washington's going to win. Yeah.
Saints
Yeah.
travel to Carolina
Yep.
division game.
Yes.
Derek Carr coming back in this
Yes.
game.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Young in at
Yes.
quarterback for
Yes.
Carolina.
Yes. He's
New
terrible.
Orleans favored by -7.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, when you reminded me that Bryce Young was quarterbacking for the Panthers this week,
Mm-hmm.
this made it easy for me. This is my
Yeah.
third game. I'm
Yeah.
taking New Orleans. I think
I'm
I
with you.
think it's not even close. Not that it's not even close, but I think they cover the 7 for
Yeah,
sure.
New Orleans. They got Kamara, they got
Yeah.
Derek Carr back. They
Kamara just got
have
paid too,
they
so he's
yeah
motivated to play. They got Carr back, and yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah they've got the defense, and Olave's been playing well for them with Shaheed out. So they got their weapons, and they got Taysom Hill now. He's back to the Swiss Army knife, throwing the ball, running the ball, catching the ball. Doing all those things, and
Slash Cordell Stewart.
yeah,
Slash
yeah,
slash.
he's like the big hulking slash. Like, I don't know, yeah, like dude's huge.
Yeah.
Taysom is the biggest quarterback I've ever seen. But anyways, moving on to the winner of this game is the New Orleans Saints, and
Yeah.
I think this is a pretty easy pick. I would definitely include them in our
Yeah.
5 game parlay. Number 3. Let's
Look at
go.
this, man.
Move on
And
to the
they
next
need
one.
this 6 game losing streak.
Yeah, yeah.
This will be a
They'll
much
get it.
needed
They're
win
gonna win
for
this game.
sure. We've already
Yeah.
talked about Denver and Baltimore. My question to you is, do you think Baltimore covers the 9.5? And I think you already answered that
Oof.
question.
Yeah. I do. I think they're going to cover the 9.5. I'm not going to put this game in our parlay, but I do
Hmm.
think Baltimore is going to win this game. They're going to, they're at home. They're coming off a tough defeat. They're going to come out swinging, and they added another weapon in Deontay Johnson and Derrick Henry. They've got running strong, and Lamar is having MVP season. So Baltimore.
All right, let's get through this.
Yeah.
Jacksonville travels to Philly. Philly's favored by -7.5. Now, on paper, again, you'd be like, easy. But,
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville hasn't been one of those teams that, at least in my opinion, that has been trampled outside of Buffalo. I think Buffalo like killed them like 31-10 or something like that.
Yeah.
But they've stuck in these games. They almost beat the Colts. They almost beat the Dolphins. They could very realistically have a 4-3 record right now as opposed to a 2-6, or a 4-4 record, excuse me, as opposed to 2-6. So to me, I mean, I think Philly wins. I think that like they're doing great. That the 7.5 is where I struggle.
Yeah.
So they're not in my 5 game parlay. What about you?
Philly's they're rolling right now. They got
Yeah.
Saquon, they got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts is playing a little bit better. They're gonna win this game, and they're gonna win by more than a touchdown and a half.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, I'll put Philly in my 5 game parlay.
Okay.
Feel that
Philly's in your
strongly
five
about
game.
this game. Yeah, so
All right.
that's number 4 for me.
That's four for you. All right.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we have the Chicago Bears traveling to Arizona. Arizona favored by -1 at home. It's
Yeah.
basically a pick 'em game. This is
Yeah.
where things get interesting for me. This is the one where I'm
Very
kind of playing with
interesting.
fire because
Mm-hmm.
I am gonna pick. Now, listen, I witnessed Arizona pull some miracle ass stuff last week against the Dolphins, but granted, it's the Dolphins. Um, their offense looks decent, man. The Arizona's defense is suspect. But
Yes,
Chicago's defense, to your point that we talked about before we went on air today, is that
they're carrying them.
they're
They
carrying
carry
them.
their team. Yeah.
To me, since it's a pick 'em, I pick Chicago, and this is
Okay.
my fourth game of my parlay.
Okay.
Is
Oh
Chicago
wow.
straight up
Woo.
winning?
Woo.
Yeah, that's
Oh, this is bold.
it's bold because this game really could go either way.
Yeah.
But Chicago coming off that tough last second loss to the Commanders, that Hail Mary that had all sorts of holding penalties that didn't get called and all that stuff. And it was an amazing play when it happened, when you sit there and dissect it. Chicago did kind of get robbed on that play.
They did.
And
They did.
so for me, this is easily a 5-2 team when they should be 5-2, but they're four and
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
I pick Chicago. It's for me. That's what I'm thinking. What about you?
Yeah. The Cardinals are playing pretty good football right
They
now,
are.
and they're kind of
Mm-hmm.
like in the division hunt, essentially at this point.
Yep.
Um, I kind of believe in Kyler Murray and
Right.
his friends there, you know Marvin Harrison Jr. and
Oh yeah.
you know James Conner. You guys are always running hard.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have that belief, and I know Chicago is playing pretty good defense right now, but I just don't have that trust in Caleb Williams and the offensive side of the ball. So
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say that the Cardinals are going to win this game, and they're going to be top. They're going to be the division leaders after this
Okay.
week
All right. We'll
of the
see.
NFC West.
We talked about Detroit and Green Bay already,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about the
Yes,
Rams and Seahawks already.
we
So
did.
let's go to the Sunday nighter.
Yeah.
Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson is benched for the foreseeable future. Joe
Yes.
Flacco is the starter moving forward
Yes.
officially, which gives the
Yes.
Colts a much better chance because the division is in reach. They're only 2 games behind Houston, and if they win, they'll be 1 game behind. And Minnesota coming off of back-to-back losses in 5 days, looking to get back on the winning track. Minnesota favored by 5.5 at home, and this is my game 5 of my parlay. I think Minnesota reclaims a win or gets a win and goes back into the gets a win in the win column. Thank you. It's another win in the win column and goes to 6-2. I love Joe Flacco. I love this story. I really wish Joe Flacco was a Miami Dolphin right now instead of an Indianapolis Colt. But we play with the cards that were dealt, and it is what it is. I
Yeah.
think Brian Flores gets his defense back on track, and I think Minnesota gets the win. I think they cover the 5.5. That is my fifth game of my 5 game parlay.
I am not. I'm. I am not a as much a believer in Flacco as you are. As
Mm-hmm.
far as like, even though like he did beat us in the 2012 Super Bowl way back when, which is disappointing. to
Still
me.
sings.
Does
Still
everything?
sings.
It all still sings. I'll never forget. Just sucks. Anyways, I do think Minnesota's going to win this game. They're going to bounce back. They're at home. They're playing an inferior opponent in the Colts, and I think the Colts might even start trading some people. Like I've heard rumors, and like I'm hoping and praying that this comes to fruition. But DeForest Buckner, he's supposedly on the block, and I would love to have him come back home to the
Yeah.
49ers.
Yeah.
And they really need it. They really need, after they lost Javon Hargrave, they're having a little bit of trouble stopping the run, and they really could use a guy like DeForest Buckner. He is a really, really good defensive player. And so I do think, but I do think Minnesota's going to win this game, and I think they're going to cover. And this is also my fifth game,
Boom. There you go.
and we're good. So to recap, you want to
Yep.
recap your five, and I'll recap my five.
Absolutely. So
All
my
right.
five are the Bills beating the Dolphins, covering the 6. Cleveland beating the Chargers outright.
Yeah.
New Orleans covering the -7 against Carolina.
Yep.
Chicago beating Arizona outright.
Yeah.
And Minnesota covering the 5.5 against the Colts. Whereas your
Yeah.
5 are also the
Yep.
Bills covering the Dolphins. Cleveland beating Chargers outright.
Yeah.
Your third
New
game
Orleans.
was New Orleans
Yep.
covering the 7.
Yep.
You have
And then
Baltimore winning by 10,
no,
basically.
that's
No.
not part of my parlay though.
Oh no, it's Chicago.
I have
I'm sorry, Philadelphia
I
is.
have Philly. Philly is
Philly.
part of my parlay.
Yep.
So Philly covering the 7.5
7.5. Yep.
against Jacksonville, and
Yep.
also Minnesota covering the 5.5
5.5.
against Indianapolis. We also have the Chiefs winning. We already talked about that. I have Green Bay, you have Detroit, and then I think we both have the Rams winning against Seattle this week.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Is that what you got?
Correct.
So that's kind of to wrap up our picks.
We're already 0-1 though, because we both picked
Yeah.
Houston to beat the Jets.
Yeah, we did.
And that obviously didn't work out. But
we'll see how the rest of the week goes. But yeah, also a good bet if you want to bet on Monday night. We're not going to include that in our 5-game parlay because we're kind of just doing Sunday stuff. But Monday night, pretty easy bet. Bet on the Chiefs. They're gonna go to 8-0, probably 9-0, and then maybe
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in that Buffalo game.